In a world where diversity often collides with adversity, June marks Pride Month, when the LGBTQ+ community comes together to commemorate their shared history, struggles, and victories. It's a time to ignite the spirit of inclusivity, acceptance, and love that knows no boundaries. For many, Pride Month is a beacon of hope, a lifeline that allows them to stand tall in their truth, to celebrate their identity. It's a time of healing, of finding solace and companionship in a world that can often be unwelcoming. Beyond the revelry and the parades, Pride Month carries profound significance. It was in the depths of struggle that the foundations of Pride were laid, from the brave souls at Stonewall who ignited a fire of resistance to the countless activists who continue to risk everything for equality. Pride Month is a tribute to their unwavering spirit. Hi there, I'm digital anchor Brandy Smith, and in this KHOU 11+ special, we're celebrating LGBTQ+ Pride Month. We begin at the beginning. Dave Freilich explains the origins of Pride Month.
What's now a collection of parades, parties, and concerts began with a riot between the LGBTQ community and New York police. In June 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn, a popular gay bar in Greenwich Village, claiming the property had violated liquor laws. As police officers began making arrests, those remaining gathered outside. At this point in history, homosexuality was still considered a criminal offense, and it was common for police to raid bars like Stonewall. But this raid led to a nighttime riot. Over the next 6 days, thousands took to the streets in protest. In 1970, on the first anniversary of the police raid at Stonewall, activists organized the Christopher Street Liberation Day March, the start of the city's first Gay Pride Week. Fast forward to 1999, then President Clinton became the first to issue an executive order recognizing June as Pride Month. With a closer look, I'm Dave Freilich.
LGBTQ+ history runs deep in Houston's Montrose neighborhood. I talked to the director of Rice University's Center for the Study of Women, Gender, and Sexuality to learn more. From the rainbows of Westheimer to the leather of Ripcord, the art of Rothko Chapel to the bands at Numbers, the Montrose neighborhood has a unique look and feel.
Such a mixture of different things and different people.
You could describe it as colorful, like the flags you'll spot all over what's known as Houston's Gayborhood. It looks very different than it did when it was first platted in 1911.
It was originally an upper and middle class neighborhood.
Brian Rydell dug into Montrose history
Purely out of personal interest.
when he moved to Houston in the late 90s.
When did it become gay? It's a very interesting question to try to answer. What do you take as the beginning of it being gay?
Artists started moving in the 1930s, so that's one option. But Rydell thought the creation of LGBTQ-friendly businesses would provide a clear illustration of the neighborhood's evolution. Starting in the 1950s,
It's a very interesting ride.
he mapped out the city's gay bars and institutions like Art Wren's.
That would be today where Katz's Deli now stands on Westheimer.
Green dots mean the business is open, blue indicates when it opened, and gray locations are closed.
But it wasn't until after 1969, in fact the 70s, that Montrose became the dominant center.
Gay rights opponent Anita Bryant's visit to Houston galvanized the queer community in 1977, resulting in Houston's first Pride celebration in 1978. During that week, a coalition of activists and advocates held Town Meeting 1.
One of the organizations that came out of that meeting was the Montrose Counseling Center, which is us.
Now the Montrose Center, it's a vital resource for LGBTQ people all over the greater Houston area.
It's incredibly important, maybe now more than ever, to continue to have places like the Montrose Center that are exclusively LGBTQ affirming.
Since its founding more than 40 years ago,
It's only grown and adapted to meet the community's needs.
just as its namesake neighborhood has.
The history of Montrose is not done.
Montrose hasn't always been a safe space for folks who are LGBT or Q. I dug into that part of the neighborhood's history in this article on KHOU.com. The culture of the LGBTQ+ community is a tapestry woven with resilience, diversity, and boundless creativity. It thrives in the shared experiences, story, and art forms that give voice to the marginalized, forge deep connections, and challenge the status quo. Vogue, an electrifying dance style born from the underground ballroom scene, is an example of that. Kimberly Davis spoke with dancers who say voguing is more than just competition.
The category is Get Your 10. It's a freedom of expression, allowing oneself to feel through movement, a style of dance known as Vogue.
Voguing consists of like 5 or 6 or 7 to 8 elements now, when it used to just consist of 5. But it's like hand performance, catwalks, duck walks, floor performance, spins, dips.
Hank Watts and Jay Adore are both Vogue competitors in the ballroom scene. Vogue was born out of the Harlem LGBT ballroom scene in the 1960s.
When you go to a ball, say for instance you have a family that don't accept you, you have a space that will accept you when you go. You could do whatever you want to. You could be a boy at home, and then you could come to the ball and be in full drag.
Safe spaces were not common in the 60s, so the ballroom scene was and still is essential for the LGBTQ plus community.
I didn't have any support. I was told I was confused. I was put in a counsel session with like a psychiatrist trying to fix me.
And like so many others, Hank and Jay found their refuge in the ballroom scene.
All of our stories are not the same. We all don't end up okay. We all don't end up with support. And some of us end up on the streets and homeless, and some of us lose our lives because they can't deal with how society treats them.
The ballroom scene is just one facet of the LGBTQ community and an important aspect of pride.
Growing up gay is not easy, but
That was always my motto. If you don't accept me, I'll find somebody who will.
Drag, an art form as old as time, has emerged as a glittering cornerstone of the LGBTQ plus community. Through flamboyant performances and fearless self-expression, drag transcends boundaries, shatters norms, and empowers individuals to embrace their truest selves. Rika Mudaraj explored drag's popularity and how the scene in Houston has grown.
It's flashy, dramatic,
Drag is just a version of self-expression.
and entertaining.
Like RuPaul said, you know, like we're all born naked and the rest is drag.
Several nights a week, Sunny Woodcock transforms into Ondi.
Once you get onto the stage and people are swooning over you and everybody has their phones out and you just feel like a celebrity for 5 minutes, and I think for anybody that would make them feel confident and validated.
Drag is expensive and oftentimes grueling.
My sponges, like my dry powder brushes, these are my detail brushes.
It also requires major artistic skill.
It's like putting spackle on a new wall, sanding it down, and then putting 2 coats of fresh paint on it.
When he's not on stage, Woodcock works as the show director at Rebar in Midtown.
And now we have this 14-foot stage up here.
He says the drag scene has exploded in Houston and around the country in the last decade, but what is mainstream now has roots dating back hundreds of years, from ancient Greek performances to Elizabethan times when men would play female roles in Shakespeare plays. In the mid-1900s, female impersonators were associated with the LGBTQ community.
Drag queens usually would perform for a drink or for a meal or for money.
And in the mid-1980s, at the height of the AIDS epidemic, LGBTQ historian Judy Reeves says the performances took on another meaning.
Most of them decided to do their performances for $1 here and $1 there to help the AIDS patients in the community. We had to raise money one way or the other.
We, the drag queens, are the ones that if you had to put on a big drag show, we brought in the money.
Coffee, considered the grande dame of Houston drag, has been performing for more than 40 years.
Some man came up and tipped me some roses and a $10 bill. I said, oh, I'm hooked.
Coffee is known for her impersonations of Patti LaBelle and Aretha Franklin.
I have a variety of styles. I love very elegant, very, 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 very rich. But then I also like wild and funky. When you add the hair, the accessories, the outfit itself, the shoes. I love shoes. You can be looking at $1,000 easily.
She says in an industry that's evolving, she has stayed true to herself. Advice she gives up-and-coming queens.
When you get on stage, if you draw that audience in, then they're gonna love you.
Drag queens and drag shows have been targeted by lawmakers in recent years, including here in Texas, where the 88th legislature passed Senate Bill 12. As originally introduced, it would have fined business owners who allowed children to attend drag shows. The bill went through significant changes, including removing direct reference to drag performers. The updated version of SB 12 criminalizes any live performance in the presence of minors that is deemed sexually explicit. How did it get to this point? Here's Reka again with a deep dive into drag and politics.
There was drag before RuPaul's Drag Race, but not at this level. We live in like the golden age of drag.
After RuPaul's Drag Race aired in 2009, it became a global phenomenon.
The time has come. Feature lip sync for your life.
Coffee, considered the grande dame of Houston drag, has been on the scene for more than 40 years. She's seen performers and audiences in Houston evolve.
You go to the shows and it's as many straight people as there are gay people.
But now, drag is caught in political crosshairs.
This is the Drag the Kids to Pride event at Mr. Mister's in Dallas's Oaklawn neighborhood.
Earlier this month, the North Texas Club hosted a family-friendly drag show with performers dancing down the aisle, some taking dollar bills from children. Inside, while participants cheered and music boomed, protesters stood outside, claiming the event was endangering children.
You people are the symptom of a dying society, and you know it.
You're scaring children.
It's no place for children.
Videos of the event are what pushed Representative Brian Slayton to propose filing legislation that would ban minors from drag shows in Texas.
What I saw was men wearing women's underwear, dancing around, very sexual in nature, and then children putting dollar bills in their underwear. And I think everyone agrees that, children putting dollar bills in female strippers' underwear would be highly inappropriate. The issue is adults acting very sexual in nature and interacting with children.
Cover them completely.
Sonny Woodcock, known as Ondi, performs and coordinates performances at Rebar in Midtown.
This 14-foot stage up here.
And says kids often attend the venue's daytime shows.
A lot of people mischaracterize us as just being creatures of the night, like we're exotic dancers or something. The thing wrong with that is drag is theater.
Coffee agrees. She says show producers have a responsibility to make sure events are appropriate, but ultimately it's parents who should decide whether to bring their children to a drag show.
I don't see anything wrong if a minor is there with their family and their family has brought them there, then obviously they feel like that's okay. And I don't think that anybody, the government, anybody else should be telling people how to raise their children.
But Representative Slayton points out government restrictions have helped in other areas.
Children can't go in liquor stores. They can't go in bars. They can't get tattoos. So this isn't the first time we've ever said, hey, parents, we're going to try to help you make this decision.
As drag shows have become ingrained in American culture, performing has gone from a hobby to a main source of income for many queens. And as Woodcock points out, backlash against the drag community not only hurts their livelihood, but makes them targets of harassment and even violence.
We want to be accepted, but we also, if we're doing this as a career or as our main job, that's the ultimate goal, is success.
Drag bans are about more than restricting performances, according to some LGBTQ plus activists. They argue the measures are part of a broader threat to the transgender community.
Trans people are under attack. What do we do?
In April, hundreds of people gathered in Austin to rally against bills filed this legislative session aimed at restricting LGBTQ plus people. That includes Senate Bill 14, which bans minors younger than 18 from using puberty blockers or hormone therapy. It also prevents them from getting transition-related surgeries. As the bill worked its way to approval in both chambers, Zach Tawatari broke down the debate over gender-affirming care.
With protesters lining the halls of the Texas Capitol.
There being 92 hours and 48 days, SB 14 has passed the third reading.
Late Friday night, Texas House members approved the initial passage of SB 14, which would ban hormone therapies and puberty blockers for minors under 18. And ban them from getting transition-related surgeries.
I think it's important for us in the House to send a message to 30+ million Texans that we care about Texas children. And we believe that these children deserve to get the care that they need, mental health assistance.
We are the ones protecting children
It is the state legislature that has decided to try to hurt them.
Transgender activist Eden Rose Torres has gone to the Capitol herself.
Watching this legislative session play out has been alarming, scary, dehumanizing, and sad.
Torres says she's afraid of what the future holds for trans youth and the community.
If gender-affirming care for kids was taken away, that leaves children not able to thrive and live to the fullest extent of their ability.
And says she uses her own journey as an example.
If I had had access to gender-affirming care and puberty blockers, I wouldn't have had to go through a masculizing puberty. Why is that important? That's important because society puts such an emphasis on passability of trans people. Whether we really care about that or not.
Democratic House Representative Sean Theory, who oversees Houston's District 146, tweeted a statement about her vote to approve SB 14, saying in part, Democrats and Republicans alike have routinely enacted legislation which shields children from acts which place them at an increased risk of harm. The principle is established in many areas of public health policy. Her statement goes on to say this same logic must also apply when approaching the very complex issue of treating gender and body dysphoria in children. But Eden says no matter what happens with SB 14, the fight is not over.
I think it's going to be a little bit of mayhem for a while. The other organizations that are part of the Equality Coalition, they will be releasing resources for people to seek care in whatever way that means legally within the state.
There's a reason advocates are pushing back against that kind of legislation. Many, really. But one is that anti-transgender violence is on the rise across the country. Stephanie Whitfield shared what's being done to fight the problem in Houston.
These are the faces of 2 transgender women murdered in Houston in the last year. Advocates say anti-trans violence is on the rise nationwide.
We saw that there were 44 known trans people that were murdered or subjected to some type of violence. In 2021, that number increased to 57. And so far, we're on track to meet or surpass that in 2022.
Austin Davis Ruiz at the Montrose Center says trans people are 4 times more likely to experience violence than cisgender people.
A lot of times they do harm trans people because of their own biases or because of their own fears.
The anti-violence program at the Montrose Center is working to change that. First, by building trust between the trans community and police. Right now, Ruiz says more than half of hate crimes go unreported.
So one of the things that we do is we work with HPD to offer a cultural competency training to their cadets. And so we are just one stop on a multicultural bus tour that all of the cadets have to take to learn about what it means to be an LGBTQ person.
There's also an HPD resource officer in the building at all times, so people can report crimes here if they're uncomfortable at a police station. But Ruiz says real change starts with lawmakers.
Once you have somebody in a position of power that is signaling to other people that it's okay to discriminate or that it's okay to hate other people, we then see that translate into real-world effects.
He feels the only way to prevent anti-trans violence is to offer protection instead of attacks when it comes to federal and state legislation. Stephanie Whitfield, KHOU 11 News.
The fight over trans rights and gay rights isn't just happening within Texas. After the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, the LGBTQ+ community worries what that means for Lawrence v. Texas, the landmark 2003 decision that found state sodomy laws were unconstitutional. Marcelino Benito explains its significance.
The year was 1998. John Lawrence and Tyrone Garner were gay men living normal lives in Harris County. On September 18th, deputies showed up to John's apartment, number 833, for a weapons disturbance.
According to the police, they observed John and Tyrone having sex and knew that it was a crime at the time and decided to arrest them and take them to jail.
The charging documents say John and Tyrone charged with homosexual conduct.
And they were labeled as criminals.
Their attorney, Mitchell Katine, says it's hard to believe, but that was the law in Texas. Section 2106 of the state's penal code made it a crime to engage in deviant sexual intercourse with an individual of the same sex. This was Tyrone after their first court appearance.
I feel like my civil rights was violated and I wasn't doing anything wrong.
The two men refused to let it stand. Together with a team of attorneys, they challenged the state sodomy law, claiming it was unconstitutional, since sodomy was only considered criminal between same-sex couples and not heterosexual couples.
They were mad and they did not want this to happen to anybody else. Honestly, I didn't think we were going to win. We lost at every court in Texas.
5 years later, the case got to the Supreme Court.
I never imagined that the case that started in a Harris County Justice of the Peace Court would go all the way to Washington, D.C.
In a 6-3 decision, the justices struck down the Texas sodomy law. It moved the ball forward on equal rights for the LGBTQ community and laid the groundwork for future Supreme Court decisions that would legalize gay marriage.
They were very honored to play a role in the civil rights of this country.
John and Tyrone died several years after the landmark ruling. Now, in 2022,
John and Tyrone would be very worried that their victory that they spent 5 years in public fighting for could possibly be taken away.
Their longtime attorney says reversing Lawrence v. Texas could jeopardize the right to marry and upend many lives, including his own. Katine is married to his husband and raising 2 teenagers.
I'm very concerned if Lawrence v. Texas goes away, it's going to be open season on gay people for anything that they can try to do.
Stories like that are why Pride Month isn't just an acknowledgement of the battles already won. It's a call to action, a rallying cry to dismantle the barriers that still divide us and to create a world where love, acceptance, and equality reign supreme. It's a journey that begins with becoming an ally. What looks like this today started with this in 1969, the Stonewall riots in New York City.
Pride Month is really a celebration of LGBTQ people fighting back against oppressive forces.
It's a celebration of protest, a celebration of struggle led by members of the queer community and supported by allies.
We need to do a lot more, and Pride needs to go beyond the month of June.
Laura Cantor's the youth services manager at the Montrose Center. She describes being an ally as showing up.
Showing up at your state legislator's office.
To be the voice for those afraid to speak up.
That is actually a role that's better left for people who aren't going to be hurt by going and speaking.
That's probably the greatest contribution you can make as an ally, because people in dominant groups don't really often listen to people from marginalized groups.
Psychology professor Dr. Kristen Anderson says ally voices are important from the state capitol to your office to home.
Ally isn't an identity, it's a set of behaviors, it's a process.
And the most important allies a member of the queer community can have are their parents.
Your first priority is to protect them.
Make sure that they're getting the support that they need.
Cantor encourages parents of queer kids to research, learn, listen, especially if your child identifies as non-binary or transgender.
Use that pronoun. It's not going to hurt anybody if you allow them to call themselves they or them, but it's going to help them feel better about themselves.
So by all means, buy the rainbow shirt, go to the parade, post the pride filter on social media. But don't forget to be a real ally after June 30th, too.
It really has to happen all year.
Just getting involved in organizations that support the LGBTQ community is a great first step. Heck, you can party for a cause at Bunnies on the Bayou. For decades, the all-volunteer group puts on a huge Easter Sunday fundraiser, then splits the money between local nonprofits. This is video from the check presentation ceremony in 2022 when Bunnies on the Bayou raised more than $200,000 for Houston's LGBTQ+ community. Before the big event, I got to learn more about the organization. On Easter Sunday, the lawn at Sesquicentennial Park will look different.
It is a place for everybody to come express themselves, feel safe, feel identified, feel valued.
Bunnies on the Bayou is definitely a party.
Take Monday off.
A party with a purpose.
Yes, we put on a big event, but
Every single dime from our event goes to our beneficiaries, period.
Along with being the name of the largest outdoor cocktail party in Houston, Bunnies on the Bayou is the name of the nonprofit entity putting it all together.
It's 100% volunteer run, so nobody is in it for selfish reasons. We're all in it because we want to see our community get better. We want to advance the Houston LGBTQIA community.
Bunnies does that by raising money, then giving it away. In 2019, it split $175,000 up for 15 nonprofits. This year, organizers want to top that amount for groups such as Montrose Grace Place, which provides resources and support for homeless youth of all sexualities and genders.
For us, it's like extremely important because Montrose Grace Place doesn't receive funding from the federal, state, or local government. So that means all of our funding comes from grants like this and community support.
Bunnies also raises awareness for groups such as Save Our Sisters United, an organization with a mission to improve the whole health of trans people of color.
I would say it's pretty vital because even within the LGBTQ community as a whole, it's not guaranteed that the other people who are not trans per se will advocate for us.
At its heart, Bunnies on the Bayou is about chosen family, recognizing that, celebrating that, and raising the community up in the process.
A lot of times people just think it's just the party. The party is, the cherry on top.
Here's a look at the organizations that benefited from Bunnies on the Bayou in 2023. They all play a role in supporting LGBTQ+ Houstonians. If you're looking for more inclusive businesses around the city, it's easy to find those too. Founded in 1848, St. Peter's is the third oldest church in Houston. This historic chapel, built just a few years later, is a monument to its history, but its legacy.
The last thing people need on a Sunday is to go somewhere and feel condemned.
Senior Pastor Leslie Jackson says his congregation is open for people of all sexualities and gender identities.
I do believe if you are looking for a church home, you can find an inclusive and welcoming and affirming church here in Houston.
You can find inclusive, welcoming, and affirming just about anything thanks to the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce.
We know that Houston is an inclusive, supportive city. We're not always seen that way.
President and CEO Tammy Wallace says the Chamber's directory boasts more than 230 members, all LGBTQ+ owned or ally-owned businesses.
We've grown literally every year since we started in 2016, and I would say even during the pandemic.
That's when Dr. Dell Ingram and her wife opened Iridium Pharmacy.
It's actually been great. It's been a great move, so I don't regret it at all.
She also doesn't regret joining the Chamber, where the directory includes everything from food and beverage to construction to healthcare, where you'll find Legacy Community Health.
It started off as the Montrose Clinic, as a response to the HIV crisis in the 80s and 90s, and then it turned into Legacy Community Health.
In 2020, it opened the Wellness Bar for, wellness, STI care, and HIV treatment and prevention.
We wanted it to be like an easy, kind of laid back, less clinical feeling environment for people to come in.
In other words, welcoming, just like all the Chamber's members are.
We want to spend our dollars where we know that these companies value us, appreciate us, and support us.
Finally, did you know Houston is home to the largest LGBTQ affirming senior living facility in the country? David Gonzalez chatted with one resident about the special place she now calls home.
The biggest thing for me is that this is my space and it's home.
Home is where the heart is. And for 71-year-old Deborah Moncrief Bell, most of her life has been spent living with family or renting a room in someone's home, not being able to be her true self.
There was a lot of uncertainty. Was I going to be able to stay there? Was their circumstances are going to change? Where would I find someone somewhere else?
You see, Bell is a proud member of the Alphabet Mafia, better known as the LGBT community, a community that until now didn't have a safe space for seniors in Texas to live out their golden years.
It's really hard for them to live in communities where no one else is like them, no one understands them, the staff may not want them there, or people don't feel like they belong.
Kennedy Lofton says before Law Harrington, many LGBT seniors in Montrose and 3rd Ward feared discrimination and were forced back into the closet.
So being able to keep these seniors close to what they built, it's at least what they deserve.
The affordable housing complex is open to all, but residents must meet income requirements and be 62 years or older. It features in-house amenities like a legacy clinic. Behind the rainbow-colored stained glass, residents like Belle feel pride living somewhere that accepts them for who they are.
I hadn't realized how much I didn't have the sense of home until I now have one.
In Houston, David Gonzalez, KHOU 11 News.
The organization that puts on Houston's Pride celebration every year has a full slate of events planned for June. On June 22nd, designers, models, DJs, and more will be at Rise Rooftop for Rock the Runway. It all builds up to the 45th annual Pride Parade on Saturday, June 24th. We have more information about all of these events on khou.com/ourstoryourhistory. From the vibrant ballroom scene to the pulsating beats of queer nightlife, the LGBTQ plus culture ignites a sense of belonging, inspires social change, and celebrates the infinite expressions of love, identity, and authenticity. We're celebrating it all during Pride Month and beyond.